Hey everyone, welcome back to Notes to Self. My name is Melanie.
And I'm Cory.
And
Cool
for
kid.
some reason, we tell the funniest crap right before the camera comes on. So you'll always see us laughing because we're laughing at ourselves. So, welcome back to Notes to Self. If you don't know who we were both born and raised in the AUB, or the Apostolic United Brethren. My dad is the current leader of that cult, and it is a cult, by the way. I was raised with 4 moms and 34 brothers and sisters. I was married right after I turned 17 and had 3 babies before I was 24.
My dad had 9 wives and 39 children. All grew up in a compound up in Montana. A great big house and a little teeny tiny house next door.
So, oh, hey, yeah. So here, that's just our old recording that we did.
Nice.
We are extremely tired, if you can't tell. So thank you guys all so much for all the prayers for my mom. She's doing so much better. She is staying with us and we are helping her get healthy again. So we apologize for the silliness because we are tired at this point in our day. But we really wanted to go over this episode before it got too late. So this is going to be season 19, episode 22. Love covers all wrongs. Does it though? Really? I don't know. And here's another thing. When you are caring for someone with a heart condition, maybe don't put her in front of a show that depicts the last 50 years of her life. My poor mom is having a lot of anxiety tonight because she did watch Sister Wives with us, and it was a little bit rough on her emotional state of being. So, because she is definitely the Mary and Janelle in that situation. So we start off. Anything else?
Nope.
So let's start off with, hey, if you haven't started your healing process, do your healing work. Just a reminder to do your work so that you can love yourself better and love your people better, because you all deserve to be loved better and deeper. So make sure that if you haven't started doing some healing work, go ahead and get started on that right away, because it's amazing when you have true, honest connections with people. And that's really what our hope is for people, especially if you're someone who has come out of a cult or a religious trauma. And if you have a human body, then you have had trauma. So go ahead and start that as soon as you can. So we start out this episode with Janelle and Mary, and they're going to Coyote Pass, and they're talking about all the things about Coyote Pass and the fairness of the whole thing, and if Cody's going to be fair or not. And we've said from the very beginning, we didn't think Cody would be fair. I still think personally it took some attorneys to get involved before they would do anything with it. But it seems like on the last few episodes, Cody and Robin are trying to do a redemption tour, trying to clean up their names. And what are you smirking at?
That's actually what I thought this season, or this episode especially, was. I actually started to agree a lot more with Robin and Cody, which was weird. So
yeah,
they are doing a cleanup, and they are kind of coming out and being honest of actually how they felt. So
yeah, and it's been really refreshing, I think, to see some of these last episodes, because you're now starting to see some real honesty from these people who are almost like playing a part. They're almost like characters in a story because they're almost playing a part. And so it's been refreshing to watch some of the real truths and honesty that have come out in the last couple of episodes.
Yeah. Polygamy's hard. Polygamy's the only thing that they kind of appreciate is separating from
getting
each
out
other,
of it. Yeah.
And maybe the kids. So
yeah. Well, I have 3.5 pages of notes on an average. I'll just tell you how many notes that is, because on an average show, I have 1 or 2, 1.5, 2 pages. I have 3.5 pages and it did take us, we had to watch the show twice because it was just so infuriating in so many different places that we would stop and talk. And then you got my mom there, and we're getting all sorts of, my mom's been a polygamous wife for over 50 years. So you're getting all of these different perspectives from us watching our parents live it, her actually living it, that kind of. So it was a long day of watching this in different breakdowns
and missing some of it. I missed some of the first parts of, because I was writing
Yeah.
my notes, and I missed Janelle and Chris. No, Janelle and Mary's facial expressions. So it's one of those things where we have to rewatch it to kind of see what they're actually saying to each other.
I know in the comments we're going to tell Cory to speak louder. So I'm just going to publicly say that in the video right now. Hey, babe, speak louder.
Done.
So one of the things that I feel sad for these women, because I've experienced this myself, and my mom expressed a lot of it during this episode. They're at the very first scene and they're talking about how naive they feel and how duped they feel because they literally spent 30 years of their life in a situation where they dumped everything that they had into this family. And despite Mary and Janelle's differences, the core of the family was what they truly believed in. And so they put aside their differences and worked for the whole of the family. And they feel silly, they feel bad. Like now that they look back on it, how did we not see that? How did we not see that this was dumb of us? But that is part of being in a cult, is because you are so brainwashed into believing that what you're doing is the right thing. And it was hard. It's been hard for my mom. It was hard for me when I left, and some of the choices that I made financially with my ex-husband. And you do them because you're following faith. You've been taught your whole life to put your faith in this belief, in the faith in the family, and you're doing it out of a belief in your faith.
A faith in your priesthood leader who will not lead you astray, who is connected to his priesthood leaders or to God for your family, that it's impossible for him to lead you astray, even though he's just a man and he will lead you astray. And so they have complete faith in him. And now, but that's a double-edged sword, because once he feels like you're outside of the family, then he feels like he's justified to do the means to keep the funds for the family. And so it's interesting to hear him talk about, well, it was a family pot type thing. And when you leave the family pot behind. So, because I'm in charge of the family pot, and just because you leave and get divorced doesn't mean you get a piece of that family pot. So you don't have to put into it anymore, but that family pot stays with the family, and I'm the leader of the family. So,
and it's hard to watch that, because we've been saying this for, dozens of episodes now that we've gotten on here and dissected the show. And it's really hard to understand, unless you've been in the situation, just how blindly by faith people in especially in this religion follow. Mm-hmm. And even though things seem ridiculously unfair or out of, like, come on, anyone with the right brain or the right mindset would never agree to do these things. That's the problem, is that when you're raised from birth to think that these things are the right things, there's no way around it.
And they have a gut feeling that something's off or something's wrong. But when they question their priesthood leader, he puts them back in their place. What, you think I would, that I'm trying to steal from you? I'm doing this for our family. And so, but they have a gut feeling, and they've overlooked that gut feeling because
time and time
for 30
again
years, they've been working super hard to get finances where they need to be. So,
well, I said this in a couple episodes ago, that it's one questionable decision after the next, to where you find yourself 20 years, 30 years down the road going, who am I? How did I get here? And it's because you made one compromised decision after another, until you found yourself in such a compromised situation that there's no way out of it. So, sorry.
Yeah. Well, and with Cody too, Janelle comes out and basically makes a statement that Robin can have him now, and his indecision, his poor decision making, his constantly moving the family, his constant changing his mind on what they want to do. Hey, have him, and you can have that diesel jeans model. And
I love that Janelle called him out for that.
And we're going to do what we feel comfortable doing and creating because they are, each and every one of these wives are creating their own life without him and being successful.
Well, you can see the glow up on all of them. They all look amazing now. They're all not the looks are the only thing that matter, but you can see that they're healing. You can see that they're in a different situation. My heart really hurt for Janelle when she says, yeah, Robin never had to live through those hard years where she was pinning her bras together with diaper pins, because they used cloth diapers. We all did. We all used cloth diapers because it was a way to save money. I changed 1 million cloth diapers in my life. I'm sure you have too.
I didn't know what the
disposable diapers
were growing up. So no, we used cloth diapers, washed them out, did all of that.
And those are that is really where you create a lot of intimacy in a relationship or in a family, where you really create that bond, where Robin was not there for those harder years, that they lived in trailers together, that they, moved at Cody's whim all the time. And I love that Janelle calls that out and says, she never had to do all that. So of course she looks wonderful and brand new and shiny to you. And, we've heard us use the phrase, she's the shiny new toy. And now Mary used that phrase on this last episode. And it's so true. We have always referred to the brand new wives as the shiny new toy, because that's what they are. They're not in the mud and the muck and the trying to build something. And now Robin just gets to sit back and reap the rewards of what these women went through for 17 years before she came into the picture.
Or is trying to reap the rewards, right? Her and Cody both. And they're like, nope, we're going to lawyer up. And I think they split the property, but they didn't. I think Cody and Robin still made away with.
Well, they made it appears that they've made over $1 million of equity in the property that Robin purchased. That a lot of the other wives' assets went into that property, so that's not being split. I mean, there's just so many levels of unfairity, and this is what happens in plural marriage. The man is the head of everything, so everything he gets to decide where all this money goes. And this is very, very common, unfortunately, and these women are just out on their behinds. I just think I love it how Mary and Janelle do. They talk about, we were team players. We were here for the goodness of the whole. And yet Robin never was. She was never there for the goodness. She saw what team players they were, and she wanted to be on the team. And then she got on the team and she's like, just kidding, I want to be the team captain. And that's it. And so it's really hard because it feels so fundamentally unfair. Everything in your body goes, God, I just want these guys to get their just dues. And so it's really hard to watch, because 90% of the time they never get their just dues. They just get to walk away with all the assets. What?
Well, they will. But I'll wait for that to get later on in the episode. So
I love that, that's one of the things they call Cody out for, is that he is not even necessarily upset about the divorces or the splits. He's upset because his ego can't handle it. And I love that Mary and Janelle called him out on that right out of the gate. Yeah, his ego can't handle these divorces. He can't handle that he failed so miserably at plural marriage. And he's trying to justify himself later on in the episode, but he failed miserably. There's not very many men who lose all of their wives within such a short amount of time. It happens, and it actually does happen a lot more, but it's like every time it does, it's stunning to people in the community.
Usually when the man's leaving the faith.
Right, is when it happens.
Is when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other interesting part with Cody here is sorry, a little bit of a brain fart there. No, with Cody, and this usually happens with a lot of the men within polygamy, is a wife can leave. They have every right to leave at any time. He's watched it happen multiple times, but they leave destitute.
They do.
So by donating the stuff to the AUB, or to have it in a family fund or within other wives' names, has protected a lot of the assets. And so usually a wife can leave and they're destitute, leave with nothing. And so he's more frustrated, I think, that both of these women are lawyering up to regain some of those assets that they put in there.
And that Christine took her equity out of her house.
Exactly. That ticked him off too, because typically when a woman leaves a man within the AUB, she leaves without anything and has to start over. So it's very rare that any women get assets when they leave.
It is.
So, and he's ticked because 3 of them have now got assets or are getting some of those assets back.
Oh, and men get mad if women get anything. Like I'm talking $50 in their bank account. That is a slap to these men's ego, and they have a really hard time with that. They don't care if their kids get starved. They don't care if their wives have to go on state assistance to help. They care because to them it feels like a loss. It feels like they were defeated and their egos get bruised.
Well, and the women have chosen to leave. If they want to suffer, be long suffering and stay with them, he'll give them scraps, if you will, and let them be still a part of the family.
Right.
So
that first scene with Mary and Janelle was amazing in so many levels. I mean, every scene that we go back to with them is amazing. And then they start talking a little bit about Valentine's Day. We'll get into that a little bit later. But he just talks about how Valentine's Day was just not a holiday that you celebrated in polygamy, because it's just not. It's too hard of a, so many of our holidays are commercialized to the point where it's like we were always told be of the world or be in the world, but not of the world. And holidays like these were of the world. They were commercialized. They were ways to just have to spend your money and do stupid stuff. And so it was, you had to be in the world because we were part of it, but you didn't have to participate in the worldly things. And so most men that I know never celebrated. I mean, I was in a monogamous relationship with my ex and we didn't celebrate Valentine's Day.
Our family, Dad would usually get, because it's spring, and so he'd get live plants for each wife, and then we would go out with one of the older, we called her grandma, and plant those all in the yard. And so you would see all the plants that all the mothers got for Valentine's Day.
And Mother's Day.
And Mother's Day, growing up the plant. Valentine's Day was my parents' anniversary. So
his mom and dad got married on Valentine's Day. So I'll bet that caused some problems.
They'd go.
You should ask your mom about that one year and see her in a while and just see what she says about that. Because his mom was the second wife. And so, that I could see that could cause a lot of problems, a lot of issues. So
gotta wrap them all up, get the Valentine's Day.
And especially because in polygamy, your anniversary and your birthday are the only 2 days that you're like guaranteed or supposed to be guaranteed to have your special time with your husband and your special day. That's it. Other than that, you're not guaranteed any other day of the year. Even if you're birthing a baby, you're not guaranteed that he's going to even be there. And so, then we go to Christine and her girls, and she wants them to come over and help her like try on some outfits. And some of these moments, I love Christine and she is as adorable as she can be, but they're kind of cringy. And so she cracks me up because they're talking about being sexy, and poor Truly, she's just like, my mom is too much for me. Yeah. Peace out. I'm out of here. But it's funny because Mel Kelty says, well, you know what? Mom's just going to be a prairie dress mom. And there's still ways to be classy and sexy. But in polygamy, you don't dress sexy. There's just no way. How do you dress sexy if you have garments all the way, and you're trying to find something that's flattering or sexy in your garments, that you just don't. And so dressing sexy is not something that we were ever taught to do.
It's against one of the laws of polygamy. Polygamy is putting yourself or dressing or putting yourself above another wife.
So if you've followed us for it at any time, we did come across the 27 rules of polygamy, so we'll be doing a video series on that. We were hoping to already have it started, but with everything we've had going on with my mom, we haven't had a chance to start those. But that is one of the rules, is not to dress yourself more appealing than your sister wives, which I believe is one of the reasons that FLDS has all of their women dressed exactly the same. All of their women dress the same dresses, the same everything, so that not one woman is above another. unless her hair is higher than the other ones. And that's true. The higher your hair is, the closer to God you are. And so that I know I've heard him say that before. So I just thought it was funny because we refer to that as prairie garb as well. We've always referred to that as prairie garb. And you see it. And what's interesting to me is I got made fun of for my prairie garb because I always homemade my own dresses. I always had to wear those kind of things. And then now those styles are coming back into style with some of these online boutiques. What?
I'd love to see you in a prairie garb again.
No. Cory somehow thinks that that's going to be awesome. But okay, so we go back to we're not going to cover a whole lot of Christine and her girls in that episode, but then we go back to Robin and Mary or Janelle and Mary, and they're talking, and Mary even says she's afraid of the wrath that they're going to receive by hiring attorneys. This is very common as well because these men will come after these women with a vengeance. When I got divorced, it was a ton of police all the time. And I was thinking, what are we doing? We are not an episode of Cops. But this is what happens because these men don't want to lose. And it becomes win-lose for them. And it becomes such an ego battle when a woman decides to leave and then wants anything to go with her if she wants any financial resources. And so it's sad because these women, Mary's afraid of it. And then it makes her angry that she's afraid of this. And yet I felt the same way getting divorced. I was afraid at first, like, what is he going to do? Christine talks about having nightmares about still being married to Cody. I have a million nightmares. I totally understand this because the trauma is that deep and the trauma is that severe. What are you going to say?
I just have nightmares about going to heaven and being your servant up there.
Being my pool boy.
Yep.
You're going to be my pool boy up there. I just know it. But one of the things that Janelle says is, it's true. Her whole identity was with Cody for almost 25, 30 years. 30 years. Her identity was her and Cody, was Mary and Cody, was Janelle and Cody. I was only married to my ex-husband for 10 years. And that was, it felt like you and I have been married twice as long as I was married to him. And it took forever for it to not feel like there wasn't some identity there still with him. And so I can only imagine how 30 years into this, Mary feels that identity. Mm-hmm. And she's afraid of him. And most of us women, when we leave this religion, have a fear of our ex-husbands because you don't know what's going to happen.
And his righteous anger.
And is it going to be justifiable because he is righteously angry? And is he going to have the support of the wife that he's still with? Is Robin going to support Cody in being, raining his wrath over Mary? Who knows? Yeah. And so, yeah, I just think that part was really striking to me because it pisses Mary off that she's even concerned or worried about this. And yet it's such a traumatic experience that that's some PTSD coming up right there. And it's going to keep coming up. Okay. So then they start talking about how some of Janelle's equity of her property. What I'm understanding is that the equity from Janelle's property in Vegas went to help put for the down payment of Robin's house in Flagstaff. The one that they made $1 million profit on. And so they're talking about that, and that even Janelle has said, I've had to pay back so much debt that I had to pay for this family. And that was just because Janelle was willing to do it for the benefit of the family. And yet we don't see how, I don't know, I guess we had to really pause the show here and go over this because we have not followed the Browns like a lot of the viewers have. We haven't gotten deep down into the Browns money situations or anything like that because we just haven't watched the show like you guys all have. And so we haven't seen a lot of that, but it feels to me in just the little bit that we have seen that so much of everybody's Vegas house equity went into Robin's house. We did see the episode where Janelle asked Robin, please don't deplete the family funds and the family resources in whatever house you get. And so here's Cody up here talking about, I'm not going to make Robin sacrifice or have to hurry to do anything for the benefit of Janelle and Mary. And yet everything Janelle and Mary have done has been for the benefit of Robin, is what it appears to us.
Or the family, as Cody will put it.
Right.
But Robin being a part of that. But now that they've chosen to leave and be no longer a part of his family, they should get nothing and they should take nothing from Robin.
Right.
So she's been the true, faithful, sweet, shy, whatever wife.
Right.
And so she shouldn't have to pay any of this back, and he doesn't have anything to give.
Well, and it's sad to me because I just look at that and I feel like Cody's projecting a lot of his anger and frustration with what happened with Christine. Because Christine she didn't have any shits to give. She was just like, I'm selling my house and I'm keeping the equity here. You can have Coyote Pass. So Cody keeps throwing that out there. I put $160,000 more into this property than anyone else did. No, you didn't. Because if all the assets are family funds, then isn't Christine's portion of the property. So his math is polygamous math.
Yeah.
It's polygonometry. Priesthood holder math. Right. It doesn't math. It doesn't make sense. Yet in his own mind, it makes perfect sense. And Robin's just so over the top confused about everything. She doesn't know what makes sense. And so she's just going to pretend and play dumb so that she can get whatever leverage she wants. So that was hard to watch. And then we're back to Mary and Janelle, and they're saying, yeah, if Cody was any sort of a gentleman that he tried to raise, and if you listen to Janelle, like he tried to raise our boys to be, so she's still referring to Mary as a parent. She's even though they had their differences, even though they don't even have a relationship, she still refers to Mary as a parent. And she's like, if he's going to be a gentleman like our boys are going to be, this isn't the way to do it. And yet every time you flash back to Cody and he's talking about the children, he reflects back on, Christine's children, Janelle's children.
My ex-wife.
Or my ex's. Yeah, my ex's children. Or two of my boys from one of my exes was there. Instead of just saying two of my sons were there. Yeah. And so he doesn't take actual ownership of these children. This is very, very common. My dad is the leader of the AUB and he still does this. He still refers to one wife's children as, her children do da 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 da. Oh, her children do. Oh, you know why that child's difficult? Because her mother's difficult. And so he still separates himself. Or if it's a child that he's proud of, oh yeah, my daughter, isn't she wonderful? And so these men, I know, right? There goes my little spout. So that's one of the frustrations for me personally is that I watch these men cause these separations between their children and themselves. Go ahead. Yeah. Nope, you're good.
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to get down here.
I literally wrote 3.5 pages because this whole episode just blew my mind. So then I am back to the part. It is frustrating to listen to him say, Cody and Mary or Janelle and Mary want to sell. And Janelle's like, I would have sold this property already. And Cody's like, well, Robin's just not at the place to sell yet. Poor Robin. She just can't wrap her head around not getting 100% of Coyote Pass for herself. And this is funny, watching this with a mother who is trying to leave and is literally expected to leave my dad after 50 years with not a penny, nothing. And so watching this episode with her, we had to pause it a lot because there was a lot of frustration that was coming out. And Cody just flat out says, Robin's not in a place to do this. And I'm not going to rush Robin to sell the property for the benefit of Mary and Janelle. And yet what Janelle said at the beginning, we were the ones in the muck and the mud at the beginning. We were the ones that were safety pinning our bras together so that Cody could move across wherever the country he wanted to. And Robin just shows up with a $30,000 worth of debt, no job, and 4 extra mouths to feed. And yet somehow she deserves all this catering to make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand that at all. You have anything else you want to put in there?
Nope.
Okay. Then we go back. Now we're at the part where they're trying to do this vanity for Ariella. And Cody comes up with this big box saying that Robin is a shopping queen. Well, we all know that based on the stuff that's coming out now. And then they talk about needing a beautiful assistant. This part really lit me up because it matters we were taught our entire lives, it should never matter what you look like. Don't wear makeup. You put your hair the same. Shouldn't matter. And yet in the AUB, there is such an expectation for women to be beautiful all the time. There's such an expectation of you to always be put together, well kept, always looking your very best. And sometimes that's just impossible when you've had a brand new baby. I know you're laughing at me because this is my own personal experiences that are just pissing me off as I'm watching this episode, because they joke about it, but it gets, oh, Cody just likes beautiful assistants. Oh, we're just a beautiful assistant that mock him while he's doing his stuff. But when you're the person who has been told this your entire life, and then you have one down day where you can't put your shit together, you can't get your makeup on, and now it's like, really, that's what you decided to show up looking like today? That's what you decided to, I've personally heard my dad say this to my mom. Really, that's what you decided to come looking like? And so these men feel like it's a direct reflection. Well, look at my harem of women. They all need to be beautiful. They all need to be well kept and put together.
Yeah, we didn't. Most of my mothers didn't wear makeup, so
Yeah.
my sisters would get in trouble for wearing makeup. So this is a different. I
guess so, huh?
Yeah.
Up there in that, which is funny because my ex-husband is from Pinestell, where Cory's from, and a lot of the women did not wear makeup up there. They didn't do that kind of stuff, and yet he expected me to always be very well put together.
Because you were Utah.
Because I was a Utah chick, huh? I was from the city. And so it was really hard for me to always keep, here on our videos, half the time I'm looking like it's rough. When you put your day together and you're doing a million other things, you can't always be put together. And so it's frustrating for me to watch that, because you could be put together 9 out of 10 days. And that one day that you can't get your shit together and you are now like, he's so disappointed in you. So some of these little things trigger me just a little bit, if you can't tell. Now we're talking about, go ahead.
No, it's just different families. It's the same thing as holidays and things like that. Some families, it was okay to wear makeup.
Yeah.
Ours just was, and most of my sisters do wear
Now.
makeup now, but they definitely weren't taught it by, some of my mothers, I guess, could have, just behind the scenes, but
yeah,
I don't remember anybody putting on makeup when I was a kid. It was a frivolous expense. Yeah, safety pinning the bra, no makeup is probably what the others lived through, and now they're doing pretty good.
And I think that's what's so frustrating is they are the ones who are living this like shit life, trying to build something together. And then Robin just comes and reaps the rewards of all the hard work that they did, and years and years and years of dedication and loyalty to each other. And, she's like, if we're doing a rewatch right now, and part of Robin's at the beginning of the episode, they're a team. I want to be a part of that team. But do you? No, you didn't.
It's a successful team. She just wants to take over it
and dismantle it.
And she's frustrated with Cody, I think, because especially with Mary, and I don't think she was frustrated with Christine, but definitely with Mary and with Janelle. She knows those two women are hard workers.
Right.
Christine just chose out. I think she's frustrated with Cody on that too, because that team made them a lot of money.
Gave her some good shopping money. That's for sure.
Why I think some of the Valentine questions of, do you want to be a polygamist again? Because they know there's not going to be a spin-off of Robin and Cody. It's just going to, the other wives all might get a spin-off, but nobody wants to sit around and watch Robin and her dolls and Cody and his whatever he does. So.
Well, and that's what's so frustrating too, is you've got to be frustrated with your Janelle and Mary, because, Cody's buying these assets and all the assets are going into Robin's home. So when Mary and Janelle leave, they leave with nothing. And, Robin and I have to split everything. And so, yeah, it's very frustrating. But then we go back talking about Valentine's Day. And now we stopped and I asked my mom her opinion on this too. Having been a polygamous wife for over 50 years, what her thoughts are on this. Because Robin gives her opinions about coming into the family, and the family did not show physical affection towards each other. Now, I know a lot of families that do it both ways. They're okay to be, I mean, you're not making out in front of your other wives, but it's fine to go up and hug a wife or be affectionate towards her. And I see why Cody chose not to do that. But I agree with Robin here, which is weird because I find myself really agreeing with Robin when she says that she believes that that was a mistake, that they should have been affectionate with each other because it creates security. It creates, and I'm sorry, in polygamy too, if you're fighting and you see your husband being affectionate with another wife, this is an opportunity for him to show you some affection too in a public place. Like, I mean, how many times if I get mad at you and you're like trying to show me affection and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm good. Go ahead and go in your corner or whatever. But now in like public place, I can't really say that. So you come up and you're affectionate and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we're friends. I mean, we don't argue or fight very often, but that way it's a way for him to like sneak it in there and maybe soften the blow so that when they get together later, maybe she's not so angry. And so I do agree with Robin in the fact that they, you know, showing that physical affection does bring some levels of closeness and unity.
Well, and it also shows the kids
affection,
what affection looks like, and because we grew up in the way we grew up, you hardly saw, you rarely, saw affection between parents. It's usually they were angry with you or angry, and I'd a kiss here or there, but not deep public affection because they didn't want to offend anybody. And that's a miserable way to look. What she says, it's a miserable way to grow up. So, and it doesn't teach the kids that that's okay either.
Right.
And so then you have to go through years of marriage class to learn how to kiss in public.
It's true. So, like public affection was really hard for me for a lot of years because I just didn't really see it growing up either. But I do agree with her. So you can do the fights and you can do some of the upsets and you can do the name calling, but then you can't have a tender word. You can't have the sweetness with each other. And
yeah, because then you do that.
We both like, oh.
No, you do that in private. And then so then the kids are growing up and just see the arguments.
Right. And then they think that's what's normal.
Exactly. And they don't see the makeup. They don't see the kindness to
the sweetness
to each other.
That can happen in a relationship. And so I asked my mom, I'm like, what do you think about this? Do you think that the no affection is wrong? And my mom kind of felt the same way. And she expressed that she feels like the affection should be shown. And even if the other wives are in the room. But there's always that one wife that will take that affection a little bit farther than what's appropriate. And I think that might be why Cody came to this decision, because there was that one wife who wanted to take the affection maybe a little bit too far. And then how do you stop that? So I can see both sides of it. You what?
Well, he says, talking about Mary at the very beginning, she smothered him. I was like, smothered you? Or I think that's the term he used, smothered her, and was always sitting on her, always showing affection. And so he took the word of Janelle's mom
and made it
a
family decision. Made it a family culture. And that's really sad because I can see both sides of why that would be beneficial for them to, but then I also can see there's going to be that one wife who will push it too far, and they always do. And from some of the things that the wives have said through some of the episodes, Robin was the one who insisted on being publicly physically affectionate, and Christine makes that comment in this episode that Robin insisted on being publicly physically affectionate, and that's hard. And I mean, honestly, it was hard for me for years to be publicly any sort of like, don't kiss me, don't like barely even hold hands, because it was so uncomfortable for me. And so I understand why. Now we're at the point where Ariel is coming in to look at her Valentine's gift. And it was really hard for me to watch this entire scene of the vanity because, excuse me, my goodness, I'm coughing, sneezing.
We got hay fever
allergies
here. Yeah, we got a lot of
Right.
plants and allergies going
So,
on.
excuse me, but my heart just broke the entire time. Every time they do a scene with any of Robin's kids, but Truly's not that much older than Ariella, and it really is. It's hard to watch because I'll bet you Christine did this kind of stuff, but she did it by herself.
Yeah.
Janelle did this kind of stuff, but she did it by herself. There wasn't this joint mutual, let's do something wonderful for our children. Let's, make something beautiful for our kids.
And I'm glad he's doing that.
Absolutely.
Now,
every child deserves it.
He says in a later scene that the kids, that his kids that are part of the exes are getting a skewed point of view from those exes. No, they're watching this behavior with a certain set of kids and see how much effort you'll put into these relationships, but you won't put even an ounce of effort into the relationships you have with us, or they haven't seen it. That's where the kids are smart. They can see that's where the disconnect is with Cody and them, not from what mom said or what this person said. They come up with their own ideas. When he doesn't pick up the phone and talk to them for months, years, that's really right. And then they get to see scenes like this. That's really where the disapproval from those kids are coming from. So,
well, and those kids, I'm sure, want their siblings to have all these things. It's not that they don't want that for these kids. It's just that they would like to have it too, or they'd like to have and I remember growing up watching my dad be so totally different with my siblings than he was with us. And I even did a whole video on it because it was so heartbreaking for me at 3 years old to see the difference. I was 3 and could tell the difference in how my dad loved some of the other wives' kids versus how he loved my mom's kids. And it's hard to watch. And so every time they'd come back to the scene, here's Cody and Robin thinking, oh, we're going to show the world how wonderful our relationship is and how much we love our children. And yet the world is watching. And I'm going to say that the majority feel the way we feel, and their hearts are breaking for all the other children who haven't received this kind of love and affection from Cody. And so here they think they're doing this wonderful, redemption tour. And yet really they're just making it look even worse for some of the other kids that just don't get it. And my heart just hurts for them. Here she's getting this vanity that is like aggressively bright. And yet Christine has to file legal documents and bring lawyers involved to get child support for Truly. I mean, how unfair and how unbalanced is that? And this is very, very common in polygamy. Unfortunately, that you will typically get one of the wives and her kids will get everything. And then what's fun is when you get older and you hear the favorite wife's kids tell their side of the story. You know what? I didn't get an action figure or a bow and arrow. And yet
G.I. Joe.
I didn't get that G.I. Joe because I really wanted that. And the other kid's like, hey, you know what? I got beat with your bow and arrow by dad. So there's two sides of and so they think they've been done so unfairly because they didn't get the exact thing they ordered. And yet the other children didn't get anything and got beat. And so and I'm not saying Cody's kids did that, but I'm just saying the distance, the cognitive distance between the mother's children who is the favorite versus the other children, it's completely night and day. Go ahead.
Nothing. I'm agreeing with you.
You're smirking at my real life examples.
Yeah, we're telling our stories, not the sister wife stories.
So one of the things Cody says at the end too is like, oh my gosh, trying to read these directions, I should have read more marriage books and followed the directions. And I'm like, there was a lot of direction given. There was a lot of advice given and none of it was followed. So that's why he's where he's at, is because he was given direction. He was given advice and he chose not to follow any of it. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the spiritual divorce part. This is probably where you have a little bit more. And Cody says he uninvolved himself in it. As most of you probably know, I've talked about this before. My dad is actually the one who gave Mary the release, and the spiritual divorce. He's the one who would have to give Janelle and Christine their spiritual divorces. I told my mom to jump in on that too, run over there and ask for her spiritual release from him. But Cody's upset about the word abandonment, and he's upset because, and he talks about, I want to clear this up because this has been kind of comes into my comments every so often about, can men go to the priesthood head, to the leadership, and ask for releases? Yes, they can. Cody insists on this video that they cannot. Now, let me clear that up. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Go ahead.
It takes a man to get rid of his ego to be able to go in and say, hey, this relationship isn't working. You know what I mean? Especially when you have 2 or 3 other wives that it is working with, and you could just put her on the back burner and ignore her. And
Right.
so this is probably, in all of the reasons that a woman could get a release, abandonment is the
most common.
Well, it's the lightest sentence. It's just
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
yeah.
He could have, there's a million other
There's
things.
there's a couple others that unrighteous dominion, whole bunch of other stuff that would really, this was more like along the lines of, you abandon your wife, slap on the wrist. You said it on TV, slap on the wrist type thing, where it was one of the lightest sentences he could get off on. And he's right. He could have went and argued it out, but he agreed. He didn't want Mary in this life or the next. So might as well just take a little bit of a ding to his ego and let it go through and get that release done. So,
but he just can't let it go. Oh, yeah. If I would have given my opinion, she wouldn't have been granted that release. Exactly. Bullshit. She would have too.
He would have argued that she was
unfaithful with her catfishing thing. Yep. I already know that's where he would have gone.
That's what he would have argued it, that she was unfaithful and stepped out emotionally on their marriage, breaking her covenants. And so, yeah, that's what his argument would be. And then he would have been chastised and should be more forgiving.
But then he would have been stuck with Mary for all eternity. So, this worked out better in his favor.
Yeah.
He just has to look like a jerk that abandoned his wife. But he's got to clear it up for all the public to see that, I didn't really abandon her. And if I would have shown up, I chose not to. But if I would have shown up, this wouldn't have been, issued. But
I could have stopped it,
yes, men can go ask for releases. And yes, it does happen. And there are some women who come into these families and just wreak havoc and ruin families, just completely destroy families. And what are you laughing at?
You just saw 19 seasons of what that looks like.
And that he could, but if he wasn't an active participant in that, he could have gone to the priesthood and said, this woman is destroying my family. I've got to get rid of her. And they would have given, that does happen. So does it happen very often? No. Is it very common? No. But can it happen? Yes. So when he gets up there and says, it's impossible for me to go get a release, that's just not true. He can. It just doesn't happen very often. And then he has to admit that he made a mistake. And that's where the key comes in. He doesn't want to admit that he made a mistake and married somebody he shouldn't have.
And this is interesting too, because we were in that situation when we were first getting married. She got a release. I was like, you got married this way, you should probably get a release that way.
Oh yeah.
That's indoctrination that we grew up with. So you can still see that even though it doesn't seem that any of them are connected to the AUB anymore, the belief system is there with, I would say, every one of them but Christine. Christine's just like, I
talked to God and God said we're good. So we're good. Peace out.
I don't need to play with any more of their
dogma
rules and regulations because I'm gone. So they can fight it out in their church. So.
And I love that for her. I love that she's that free of it. I felt like I was that free of it when I left, but then, between the two of us, we decided, you kind of decided that I needed to get a release, and I did. And it worked good for me too. I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I went in there and made that final demand that I had to get it done. But it took a demand and it took years for me to be able to get one. So they're not something that is just easily, flippantly given. They are very hard to get, but they are done and it can be done. And really, who gives a shit if they don't give you one? walk away. Who cares? At least that's how I feel about it. I'm very much more on Team Christine about this than I'm not. But Cody goes on to say that his church is not a cult. It's a cult. There's no question about it. My dad is a cult leader. There is absolutely a cult. And I did a whole video on this. You can go watch it if you want to. What defines a cult? And I went through real life examples in the AUB that caused this to be an actual cult. Go ahead.
Oh, and he even says that polygamy is a cult, living that way. And he was the cult leader over
yeah, and then marriage is a cult.
Marriage. His marriage with 4 wives was a cult. And
a cult is easy to get into and hard to get out of. And the AUB is hard to get into and easy to get out of. That's why he thinks that it's not a cult. And that's just not true. It is absolutely a cult. I will die on that hill, just like I will die on the same hill that an 11-day honeymoon was excessive and mean and rude. Those are two hills I'll die on. Okay. I thought it was really sweet of Mary to support Janelle. Hey, I will go with you. Let's talk about this more later. They don't want to talk about that on camera because that is really very a sacred experience for both of them that they want to keep more in a sacred space. And I don't blame them for that at all. And I really feel that it was really, really generous and kind of Mary to offer to walk Janelle through this process if she wanted to. And I feel for Janelle because she does have a lot of the roots of Mormonism and LDS, and she does still really firmly believe in a lot of that faith. She says her faith is still intact in a lot of ways other than the plural marriage part of it. And so she does believe a lot of the doctrine. And so I respect that. If that's how she believes, I respect that. And I just find watching these two women that can put themselves in, they can put the other person's needs first. And they have done this and continually done this for 30 years together. Even though these two women are not best friends, they don't get along. You can see this is really where the teamwork comes into play. And this is why the OG3 were so successful living this way together, even though they had their hard times, even though they had their upsets, even though they quite often put the other person's needs well above their own. And this is one of the things of polygamy that I find valuable is when you can learn to put yourself, but then it becomes toxic. So I have to be careful about how I say this because you can learn how to put yourself last or not at all, and it becomes a toxic level. But the way I feel like the way that these women did it most of the time, did I see levels of toxic? Yes, absolutely, where they put themselves last. But in this situation, it wasn't really toxic. Mary was just trying to be there for Janelle, and I really, really appreciated that.
She'd been through it.
Right.
This is who you get a hold of, how phone numbers, all the stuff that Janelle has no clue how even to get a hold of them.
Janelle, email me. I will give you my dad's phone number right now. You can call him. And they really do take this.
Don't take it as a recommendation, though.
You can do whatever you want, but they really do take the sacredness of these relationships as eternal marriages. They're not just, I believe there was a scripture or something that says what's bound on earth will be bound in heaven. They fully, truly believe this. And so that is one of the biggest reasons why these marriages are so sacred and people believe in them with their entire hearts. That's one of the reasons it's so hard to leave. And leave the marriages is because they do believe that they are eternal. Let's see. So I wrote down here, Mary and Janelle really do work so well together because they have the same core value system. And all of the other stuff is surfacey jealousy stuff, but they do have the same core values when it comes to the family, when it comes to raising the kids. Same with Christine. Christine had that same core value. So do they have their hiccups? Absolutely. Do they have their fights? Do they have their jealousies? All of the crap that comes along with polygamy. But when you take all of that away and you look at someone's core values, I really feel like Christine, Janelle, and Mary had those same core values. Robin did not. And that is one of the reasons why Robin, it was like adding water to an oil, bubbling oil, and then you just get an explosion and fire. And that was part of the problem is Robin doesn't have the same core value system.
But she thinks she has all the right answers and has been living in polygamy
And
her whole life. We've been in this no, still you haven't. Still you haven't polygamy once in this.
Well, they're
In
talking
the
about it
15
at
years
dinner.
they've been together. So.
And she's like, do you still want to live polygamy? And she's like, I kind of thought I see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I'm like, sweetheart,
haven't done it
you've
yet.
been doing this 15 years and you haven't really even done it for 15 years. And these women have been out the door for a good portion of that. So yeah, I love it whenever she talks, and we're about to hear the doctrine of Robin. What the hell? Oh, anything else you want to add to that one?
Well, that's, yeah, if we're going to go that, but that's my last
gotcha.
one. I was just, Cody's saying that he's going up Salt Lake to meet with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. And the best part about it is he's not taking Robin up there. He's going and working on those relationships by himself, because in past, Robin has been, as much as he's feels like that the other wives are throwing his name out there, could happen. He's been throwing their names out. They could say, make a snide remark or two. They're doing it on TV. The kids are seeing that too. But I think some of the most toxic part of him trying to not really being able to work out with these kids is you have to apologize to Robin. You have to accept her as my wife. Now all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm going to go out and build a relationship back up with these kids without Robin here. And so she's asking how it went. And I'm like, that is an awesome first step, going and talking to the kids as a dad.
Right.
So
I didn't like how she said, when she was like, how was your talk with Aspen? And he said, oh, Aspen asked me why I didn't like her. And she said, Robin came back with, oh, that sounds confrontational. Yeah. That felt like a little bit of divisiveness. She's going to, are you sure that that was a good conversation, or was Aspen being confrontational? Mm-hmm. Almost like making Cody question. And so I felt that was a little bit manipulative, and she could have left that out. She could have just said, oh, that's awesome that Aspen would feel confident enough to say that to you. But instead, she makes it sound like Aspen's being confrontational with him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And he came back and said confrontational is good because it's the start of
well, and he did say that's confrontational for Aspen because she normally wouldn't say something like that. Aspen's a sweetheart. She's always been such a sweetheart. So I think that it is a good first step. I'm glad to see him doing this kind of stuff. I wish he would take more ownership of his children when he's talking about his children, instead of saying 2 boys from another wife were there too. Instead, just saying 2 of my boys were there. I went and met with a bunch of my girls. And he did talk about a sweet experience. Now, you are a lot more positive about this than I am, because I know that I will walk away from a conversation with my dad and he has one experience and I have a completely different experience. And he walks away going, oh, this was a sweet, wonderful experience. And I'm like, he didn't hear a word I just said. So that is a different look on it. And so I'm hoping that Cody is looking at it the way that you are experiencing it, because you always see the bright side of everything, because that's just your personality.
Well, are you talking about him meeting with the kids? I just think it's a good first step. I don't know what the conversation was, but him being able to step away from the divisive wife
and not have her there
and trying to work on a relationship, that is an excellent first step. I feel like that.
I agree with you.
If he's coming in, you have to accept this 4th wife, blah, blah, and everything that she's doing. And then you're not going to have a relationship. He did that with the boys. Yeah. And the boys just shut it down and walked away. And it sounds like now he's changing that behavior, going in to discuss it with the kids, with the divisive wife not in the mix.
True.
So it's a good first step.
It is, for sure. And I just hope that it was as sweet of an experience for the kids that he met with as he proclaims that it is. I guess that's where we look at it. Okay. Is that the kids probably are like, at least for me, my dad will say, oh, I had a wonderful connection. And I'm like, we didn't even talk at all. We talked about you. You didn't even ask me anything about me. And so that's where I guess I look at it. Like, I just get tired of hearing, oh, we had a wonderful connection. We have a wonderful relationship. It was a sweet experience. And yet the child walks away with a completely different idea of what happened than what the dad did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
So I see your point, and then that's kind of where I was coming from with it.
Okay.
One of the things that Christine talked about is her confidence level. And it broke my heart because I still feel this to this day. It's something I still have to work on all the time because I felt like I was beat down so severely that I don't, like Cory will give me a compliment. Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful tonight. And I'm like, why? And it's hard for me. It is true, huh?
It is so true.
It's so hard for me to receive a compliment. Yeah. It's really tough for me because I feel like I was beaten down so much. And so I totally understand where Christine's saying this, that, you know, he always, that sign language for beautiful, and he'll do that to me and I'll be like, okay, whatever, and walk away. And it's not because I don't want to hear it. It's just because it's so hard for me to hear. And so Christine has always had a high self-confidence level. She always has. Ever since I've ever known her, my whole life, she's had a very high level of self-confidence. I've always had a very low level of self-confidence in a lot of different ways. And so many of these women do, because they are beaten down so harshly emotionally by their fathers and then by their husbands. And it really, it breaks my heart when I listen to her, when she's like, I want every woman to feel this secure and this happy. And I do too. I mean, I found so many different levels of confidence and happiness now, but I'm still not there. There's still times where I'm like, what do you want? What, like, I question it. Like, why are you being nice to me? Do you need something? Do you want something? Because this is typically part of a polygamous man. He'll come in and start buttering up or sweet talking a woman because he needs something or he wants something from her. And then other than that, he has no time, no use for her. He'll get around to you when he gets around to you, when it's your turn. And if it's not your turn, don't bother him. And so my heart hurt a little bit when I was talking to Christine. I appreciate how confident her girls are too. Because I see that. I see how confident they are. I look at how confident my daughters are, and I'm so grateful that I broke that pattern, because I certainly did not grow up that confident, and I did not grow up knowing or feeling beautiful at all. And I did not grow up feeling confident at all. And so when she says that, when she says, I hope these women can, you know, that's why I love to see the glow up of Mary, Janelle, and Christine, because this is a hard lifestyle not to just feel insecure 24/7. And it is, you're constantly insecure. You are constantly, whether you're doing it or not, your husband is always comparing. There's just no way around it. He's always comparing the way you cook versus the way she cooks, what you wear versus what she wears. Are you sexier than her? And so there's a constant comparison. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'll just bite my tongue there. So there's comparisons between husbands too. So
is there?
Sure. This husband left. That husband could be the prophet. I don't know.
No, it's definitely, that's what I think about. You know, we said this on the last episode, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's so true. It's so true. And unfortunately, in polygamy, that's really what it feels like. Your life is constantly being compared 24/7, all the time. Everything you do is being compared. Even if it's not to your wife, it's another wife. It's your husband's comparing you to a friend's wife, or you're comparing your husband. Yeah, you're right. You're comparing your husband to a friend's husband. Like, look how much nicer he is to his wives than you are. And so, I don't know. Everyone compares themselves to you, though.
Cody could be out of a job. Prophet's looking pretty good. So that's where I was going with that.
Oh, gotcha. So. No, I feel like most husbands do compare themselves. Look at Cory. He's so amazing. So, okay, now we're talking about, we get down to Christine. We're almost to the end of the episode. We get, down Christine, and she's talking about her first kiss with Cody, which is interesting to me. She's at dinner with David, and David is just a sweetheart. I have loved watching him. I've loved watching everything he says and does. He's just so on point all the time, but it felt a little weird that they're spending their first Valentine's Day together. And this is probably just for the cameras. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they don't sit and talk about Cody during their entire thing, or how hard her relationship was, or how hard polygamy was. But she's talking about her first kiss and how she gave Cody her first kiss over the altar. And I hadn't really thought about that because she didn't want to kiss a married man. I hadn't really thought about the fact that her first kiss would be in front of his other wives. Mm-hmm. And when she said that on this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And so she's telling Cody, yeah, maybe don't do your first kiss with your next wife, in front of all of us, because that was really uncomfortable for me. And so then he does kiss Robin, and then she freaks out about it. And so, yeah,
stings.
It did sting. And so, but I never really even thought about that, how uncomfortable that would be. And here's the thing, it's not just over the altar. In the room that you get married in, there's a lot of people that are there, because anybody who's worthy can be in this room to watch their loved ones get married, but you have to be worthy. So when I got married, there was probably 50 people in the room. And, yeah, I remember, because I didn't like public displays of affection, we got sealed over the altar, and then he leaned over and kissed me, and I was like, okay, done. Like, don't do that again. I looked around the room like so uncomfortable, because he had kissed me in front of everyone, and it felt really weird to me. And so we didn't even touch or hold hands or anything until we were in the car driving home, because that's how uncomfortable it felt for me to have any sort of public displays of any sort of affection. So that was kind of an aha moment for me, something that I hadn't really thought about. Getting your first kiss in front of a room full of holy spiritual people. There's my sarcasm there.
That's a lot of righteous people.
Yeah. Now we're at Cody and Robin's dinner, and they're talking, and Robin, she wants to know if one wife is going to be enough for Cody. Now, I don't know why, it just feels like everything is so scripted with Robin and Cody. I feel like they've already had these conversations a dozen times, and now they're going to just do it for the camera. And so I think also same with Christine and David to some degree. What they talked about in their dinner was somewhat scripted. It felt not scripted necessarily, but it was just like, hey, let's talk about this on camera. I don't think Janelle and Mary's was as scripted. Obviously, it was things that they already had talked about before, but now they needed to do it on camera. But Cody and Robin's, for some reason, to me, just feel so rehearsed, and they feel so scripted. They feel so beyond fake. Like, we already know you've had this conversation. We already know that you don't want to live polygamy again. But he talks about, when she says that, I don't know if one wife is going to be enough for him. It makes it sound so, it takes like a lot of, how do I even say this? There is a religious aspect to it. And I feel like that takes some of the religious aspect out of it. Like, oh, is one wife going to be satisfying enough for him because it's satisfying all of his human desires, where there's supposed to be the religious element about it? What do you think?
I took it completely different. I took it with, hey, are we thinking about getting another wife or two
I need some worker bees.
Yeah, some worker bees to add to the family pot. And it's going to be awkward when 3 other spin-off shows go, and nobody's going to want to watch Sister Wives when it's just Robin and Cody. So she's putting out, I think she's working on trying to get
cast applications for a new cast
for a couple more seasons. So we can't keep going on like this. Now we're down to one wife, and this is called Sister Wives. So we probably ought to add some Sister Wives to keep the show going.
Yeah. So I just thought that was such a joke. Like, I always thought I'd live polygamy for the rest of my life. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this has to be a joke, right? That she's saying that she's going to have sister wives for the rest of her life. And here's the thing. If they did that, more than likely they would not be going back to the AUB. They would be what was called independents, where they would just go out and get another random wife and marry themselves to her. I don't know how they would do that.
Well, she'd probably have kids. So he'd have to divorce Robin and
marry her to adopt those kids. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'd love to see a shit show like that. That would be a complete shit show. But Cody just says he doesn't want to live polygamy again. He feels like he's been slapped by him. Like, yeah, you've been bitch slapped, buddy. And then he talks about how devoted they were to the religion. And that is part of it. That is the huge part of it, is that just how devoted people are to this religion, because it really, truly, they believe it is the only way back to God. It is the only way to heaven, is to live this way. So they believe it and live it with their entire hearts and souls. And so you're supposed to get through all of the worldly or all of the humanly flaws of this religion and just do the holy spiritual side of it. But that's hard for me to see that when she makes that question seem so human, like, oh, his humanly desires of, well, is one wife enough for him? It makes it sound like he's just a horn dog and needs all these different women to.
Well, and he said he's satisfied with monogamy, so then apologize to her. So as hard as polygamy is to live,
I can see where you're going.
Divorce within polygamy
is way harder.
Because there's a lot of emotions, and he's an angry elf when Christine just packed up and left.
Yeah.
And he's expecting those three wives to support him in his grief that she's leaving, and basically shun her. And when Janelle doesn't, she has built a relationship up with Christine too, and she knows what Christine has been going through. She's lived it, and so she's going to comfort him. Well, then she's going to take the wrath of Cody too. And I'm not discounting that Robin probably has got some wrath from him.
Oh yeah, I'll bet she has.
Frustration, especially when she's asking questions through her frustration of him making amends with these other wives. So he eventually runs off Janelle through his anger.
Yep.
And then disregards Mary. And so, divorce is ugly. And I believe he is worried now because he's seen that ultimately, if he looked at it honestly, Christine left, and he basically ran off two wives in his rage and his anger. And he's even admitted that he thought about leaving Robin too.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's healing after his 3 divorces. So a little bit, but
I thought you were going to say polygamy is hard, but monogamy with just Robin is even harder. That's where painful. I totally thought you were going with that.
It's painful. So,
but one thing I want to give Christine a shout out and recognition for is she says right here, I wish he would have told me that he didn't want to have an intimate relationship with me long before he did, because after he told me that, I kicked him out the next time he came home. And good for her. Good for her that she had the confidence and the self-esteem to be able to do that, because most women don't. It takes time and time and time again for them to finally find that.
Once he was honest with her.
Right.
So he hasn't been honest with her.
Right.
Through the whole, even getting up to marriage. His honesty is less than when it came to Janelle and Christine. So
very true.
He become honest, tells her what he's feeling, what he thought, and she's like, great, I'm done. See ya.
Thanks for sharing, and get out. One thing he does say right here too is he says, in 5 years, I'm going to feel sorry for my friends who are still in this religion. And it's funny because as you're coming out of the religion, you think, oh, you're just spinning and you're trying to get out, and you think, oh, I'll never turn around and hate this like I do now. Or, and I'll never make fun of my friends or mock them or tease them. But it is true. When you come out of there, you do have a level of sympathy or empathy for people who are still in it. And then it's hard to hear your friends' stories, because when they come to you and they complain, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. This is so unfair to this wife. This is so unfair to that wife. Oh my gosh. Then you're like, leave. And it's hard for you to have compassion at that point, because you're like, leave, just leave. And you remember how hard it was for you to leave. I remember how hard it was for me to leave, but there's been moments where I am like, I had to dial it back a little bit, because I'm like, just leave. But we forget sometimes how hard that is to leave, because we now see the other side of the indoctrination. And so it makes so much sense that why they're indoctrinated. So just leave. But while you're still in it, you don't see that. And so it's so hard to find that ability to just leave. So when he said that, I thought that was really interesting because of how many people I know that feel the same way, how I felt the same way after I left. And yet it took me so long to finally leave. Go ahead.
Well, and even my brother that's still
Right.
a part of it is confused even with the conversation of, you don't believe anything? And I'm like,
It's hard for
no,
him to comprehend.
It's hard to comprehend because we've been in it our whole lives, and so it's hard for him to comprehend that I have truly left and don't want anything to do with it, especially since we've been invited back. And I'm like, no,
and we've been invited back a few times.
He doesn't understand that at all, but it's going completely through the unlearning everything that we're indoctrinated with growing up. So
right,
he's still confused why I don't believe any of it. So.
Right. Well, and that is one of the things. That's why I think you're still seeing Janelle hold on to some of it. And then Robin says she's still holding on. She still has the belief in it. She still has the faith in it. She just didn't live it, and didn't live it well at all. Not many do live it very well, but
no, they all struggle. Everybody struggles in it. It's a hard lifestyle to live.
But as she's saying that, she's like, I still have the belief in it. Everything that she says comes off as everything's unfair to her. And that's where she struggles with it. That's where she struggled with polygamy the most, is because everything seems so unfair to her. And that's, it's interesting because I listened to the other wives, and they didn't complain about a lot of stuff Robin did. We're just now starting to hear some more honest, true things. What are you smirking at?
From all of them.
Yeah.
From all of them. I mean,
yeah.
So Robin's even bringing out some of her frustration with Cody, and I feel like it's a build up, but
yeah,
I agree with a few things Robin says too. I'm like, holy crap. They're all kind of waking up a little bit. So,
well, not Cody does say that. He kind of ends the episode with saying that, plural marriage was hard. It was hard on him. And yet he didn't ever stop to think about how hard it would be on his wives. Because, and he's had this arrogant, cocky attitude of, well, this is what you agreed to do, so do it. And we've seen that. He's expressed that in several episodes where he's like, this is what you agreed to do. What's the problem? And so now all of a sudden he's taking a step back going, yeah, this was really hard on me, and it was really hard on them. And he's starting to see that.
Well, and to admit that it's probably a little bit harder on the women with the jealousy and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, men are disgruntled when a wife leaves and marries a higher up priesthood holder. And so that's their level of jealousy, but usually they get another wife to replace her. So.
Oh my gosh.
Or excommunicated.
Yeah, right. But then he also talks about how plural marriage is so hard on him, it's so hard on his wives, but part of his reflection is he realizes now that he relied on his children to feed into his ego. He relied on his wives to feed into his ego and to feed his self-esteem and to validate him. So he didn't even know how to self-validate his own beliefs. And this is one of the things that this is why I feel like he's struggling so much harder than Mary, Janelle, or Christine. This is why Robin is struggling so much harder, is because they've used people to validate themselves or validate their egos and make them feel important. Where Christine and Janelle and Mary have learned to do that for themselves. They're not dependent on their children to get this external validation. They're not dependent on the public for this external validation. They know how to validate themselves in what it is that they believe in, what it is they're doing. So they're very self-directed and very self-confident. And that's why you're seeing their glow up happen, and they're coming out so much healthier and happier. And this is why you're seeing Robin, and in my opinion, Robin and Cody crumble the way that they have been, is because of all this external validation is no longer there.
Yeah.
The kids aren't validating what a wonderful, he's saying now they think I'm a piece of trash, but I said they were a piece of trash. And that blew my mind when he A, made that acknowledgement, and B, made that acknowledgement, because I'm like, who says their kids are pieces of trash? Like, who does that? Who says that about their children or their ex-wives or wives on national or international television? Who does that? So I feel like he's starting to gain a little bit of awareness. Let's see in future episodes if this is just something he's been told, so he's repeating it, or if this is something he's actually internalizing and he's learning and he's healing from. That I'm not quite sure of yet.
Well, I think he actually read the Sacred Loneliness, and so he's using some of those because he's been sacredly lonely for a little bit. So
yeah, and so I couldn't get a good read on whether I believed he was genuine in anything he said. So if he's just repeating, if he's on his redemption tour and he's just repeating the things that he's supposed to be saying, it's hard. The jury's still out for me on that one. I haven't made quite, a decision on it yet. Yeah. So we'll see in future episodes and one of the redeeming things I think is Coyote Pass was split 4 ways equally, and we've all seen that. And I don't know if that is even redeeming or if that's just something that was ordered by courts or something that he had to do. Who knows? So anything else you want to say about this episode?
The lawyers helped him
find his way.
Yeah. Coaxed him to be a good guy to his ex-wives, like he's trained his children to do. So
right. So
I'd like to thank the lawyers today for an amazing guide back to the path of
humanity.
Yeah.
Just being a decent human. Yeah. So let us know what you guys think. This is our take on this episode. There's so much more we could go into. Like I said, watching this with my mom and the 3 of us, it was an all-day process for us. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you have not liked our page, go ahead and like, subscribe, hit that bell so that you always get notifications whenever we post a new video. And we will be posting a lot more videos. We, like I said, we just been a little MIA with health issues, but I think we're going to start trying to do some lives again here pretty soon and get a couple more videos out. So go ahead and like us. Let us know what you think in the comments. In our description, we have links to all of our other social media. If you want to follow our Instagram, we do some more daily updates on our Instagram of like what we're doing during the week and day. Our TikTok link is on there as well. So go ahead and follow any of those if you want to have any other updates other than YouTube. And anything else?
I just don't know which one, if it's this or this, the sign language.
Beautiful? I thought it was
this.
Yeah.
What's this?
Don't smack me. I have no idea.
I thought it was mirror or something.
Oh, I have no idea.
Cool.
So
heal yourselves.
Yeah. Go ahead, and if you haven't started healing, do that now.
Yep.
Because it's wonderful to love yourself and be able to love your family. So thank you all so much, and we will see you on the next roundup.
All right. See you guys.